Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend. I am Yori Folari. Let's kick off this morning with money matters, in particular IMF. And I guess everybody knows that IMF, if they could have their way, would want us to take out fuel subsidy. Well, that's not going to happen, thank God, according to the government, because they say the conditions don't exist at the moment. IMF has also said that Nigeria was mismanaging or had mismanaged its sovereign wealth fund. We have a couple of experts this morning that will help tell us what exactly the issues are and what is meant by mismanagement and the false fuel scarcity that the announcements sort of occasioned. Let me introduce Mr. Akitude Babatunde. Mr. Babatunde is a program manager, Premium Time Center for Investigative Journalism. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. And Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed is a financial analyst. Great to see you too again.
Thank you, sir.
Indeed. Thank you. First of all, gentlemen, it sounds worrisome that the IMF will, when they do their rankings, they'll go and put us where they put us. But I'm sure they're not doing it emotionally. They must be using certain indices, certain figures. But most Nigerians were not amused by being placed second to last in terms of how well we're doing with our sovereign wealth fund. But before we get there, let's even start from the first news item that all labor organizations, whether it is Pengasino, whether it is NUPENG, whether it is NLC, all of them have, said to government, don't even think about it. Let's look at this whole, and the NLC president, I think, has said that, look, every time the IMF starts with Nigeria, they're always looking to devalue our currency. How do you see this whole scenario where IMF says Nigeria needs to do better and take fuel subsidy out?
For me, I have always been an advocate that subsidy should be removed. All through government, the previous government, this government, I've always been an advocate that subsidy should be removed. And this is the terminology area. I say, who are you subsidizing? I keep asking that question, and that's what the government need to let us know. Who are they subsidizing this fuel for? Remember the time we had the fuel demonstration in Ojota, the liberation day? That was when we realized that there was a scam in this subsidy scheme. And up to today, nobody has been brought to book about that. Now, who are they subsidizing this fuel for? Is it the ordinary man on the street or the rich? Mm-hmm. The ordinary man on the street, how many of them can afford a car and buy fuel? Some will say, okay, yeah, you buy fuel in their generator. Is that normal for them to be buying fuel in their generator? And again, we have people that, then when you talk about the rich, some of the rich, you just need to go out and see the convoys of cars that follow them. So on each of those cars, government is still subsidizing it. Mm. And how many of those, and when it comes to the crisis time, like what we have, like a fuel crisis that was about happening over the weekend, we begin to realize that it's the ordinary man that suffers, the masses. Before you know, transport fare goes up. And so I will still do this subsidy. For me, subsidy for me should be removed. But there must be a conducive environment to remove it. That's what Labour, Pengasino have been saying. Mm-hmm. They're saying, okay, make it attractive for investors. But I said, if we were waiting to make things attractive for investors, today we wouldn't have had the GSM. Because we would have said, okay, make Nitel attractive. And today, as we are saying, there's nothing like Nitel again. We are busy selling their assets. So everybody is waiting for Dangote refinery to come into play before they begin to say, okay, let's deregulate, let's do that. I think for me, we need to have the political will. Remember the time we went to the struggle in Ojota, at that time it was raised to 140 naira. And we went all, and it was brought back to 100 and is it 100 naira or 80 some? I can't remember. But when this administration came into power, they brought it back to 145. And because of the goodwill the president enjoyed, it was the first time in the history of this nation, there was a fuel increment and there was no demonstration. And at that time we said, finally, subsidy is gone because the president said that is the right price. But the challenge we have is, once the price of crude goes up, because we are more or less like a country that import our refined product. So once the price of crude goes up, then subsidy has to play its role. Because at the time the government was raising the price of petroleum to 143 naira per 143 naira, 45 naira per liter, the price of crude at that time was about $50 per barrel. But today, the price of crude is about $71 per barrel. So,
Mr. Babatunde, give me your perspective on this matter, and also the viability or otherwise of removing fuel. At least, you know, Mr. Mohammed says, if you leave it to me, I would take subsidy out. And that is alluding to the fact that people who have been studying the issue, kept an eye on it, have always assumed or thought that there's a corruption component to this whole idea of subsidizing Nigerian fuel. How say you?
Yeah, I'll go with him that subsidy should be removed. And I want to give it in a clear perspective, because I think the biggest orientation that people are, you know, the masses, is that subsidy is meant to benefit them. Not entirely. Subsidy is actually a scheme to benefit more the elite.
Well, it wasn't designed that way, but you're saying
that's the orientation.
You're saying this is the bottom line.
Yeah, that's what people feel. People feel like when you remove subsidy, it compound or you know, it makes their life worse. But in this clear time, you know, an average Nigerian that's you know, when you look at, let's look from the current people that are living in extreme poverty in Nigeria, that's about 93 million Nigerians. So an average, and it is stated that they can't afford $2 per day. That means if you can't afford $2 per day as a Nigerian, you are not very likely to have a car. So if you are not very likely to have a car, that means your fuel consumption daily, it cannot be compared to the elite. If you look at the top guys in Nigeria, they have their car, a different car takes them to school, takes them to office, a different car takes their wife to office, another one takes their kid to school.
So the key beneficiaries
the key beneficiaries
are Nigerians.
Yes, because an average Nigerian will go on Marwa. An average Nigerian will go on you know, public transport.
But
that means.
But whereas sorry to interrupt you, I understand what you're saying. If they were to remove subsidy, the government has already pointed out what is obvious. It's going to create hardships all around. Even as it hasn't been removed, you see the false scarcity that we're hearing being reported from some states where the fuel has already gone up. So even though, yeah, I can see you're looking at the ordinary Nigerian, but he's going to be in worse shape, Labour seems to be saying, if you remove subsidy.
Okay, so when we arguing for the removal of subsidy, we should also argue the intention of the government. Let's look at the mode government is subsidizing this regime. This regime is not calling it subsidy. They're calling it under recovery. And you know, in the past years, people don't even know. People don't have an idea that this government is still subsidizing fuel. So let's look at it from that perspective.
Mr. Mohammed just finished saying that
let's start from
you know,
the data that has to do with daily fuel consumption. Between 2015 and 2017, and the average, you know, annual daily consumption of fuel is about 33 million liters per day. But because data, you know, the NNPC, they are opaque with the data, so people don't really know how much fuel are we consuming daily. And that's how subsidy, the subsidy is on a liter, you know, subsidy is on a liter. So we don't know how much is, you know, how much is government subsidizing per liter. So and recently, the daily consumption of oil has doubled the price, the normal. It used to be 30-something before, 30-something million liters per day, but now it's about 50-something million liters per day. So that means the more you increase that particular number, the more you tend to spend on subsidy, and the more the big guys, you know, benefit from it. So when the government are saying they are not, even the environment is not conducive, is the government really intentional about removing subsidy and creating another thing that would make life better for Nigerians? If you are removing subsidy, can you then invest whatever goes into subsidy daily into education? Can you remove what is going to subsidy? The 2019 budget proposal says about 300 billion will go to subsidy. Can you please take that money and invest in health? So when people are even paying more for fuel, they are sure that they don't have to bother about primary health care center because it will be working by then. They don't have to bother about going to schools because they don't have to bother about paying more for schools because government schools will be in good shape. So if government has, you know, greater incentive and they are really, really, really intentional about, you know, having a proper incentive. They can remove subsidy. It's just about the intention. Let us have the clear data. How much oil, how much fuel are we consuming daily? There should be a database where we can all calculate it. So government should let us know how much really, because the figures from the vice president, the figures from the minister of state of petroleum, they are all conflicting. So we don't really have an idea of how much and government is not even admitting up until recently that there is anything called cost subsidy.
Indeed.
They've been calling it under recovery. So we should not just tell the masses that removing subsidy will create havoc. No. We should tell them what exactly is subsidy, how much are we spending on subsidy, and what are the incentives we have in grant to make sure that lives get better for them.
What do you think, you know, just your thoughts as to why the transparency he's talking about is scarce? That transparency, what do you think the problem is? Since we're all on the same side, from Mr. President right down to the ordinary person. So what is this lack of transparency that researchers seem to bemoan from time to time?
I think when it comes to oil, there's not been transparency.
Oh, okay.
In any regime, right from the, I'm sure since the day we discover oil in this country, there have not been transparency. Because up till now, unless you tell me tomorrow, or the minister will come and tell me that, we don't know the exact number of crude that we export.
We don't.
Don't know the exact number of crude that we export.
That one is kept as a secret. But some people will know in Nigeria.
No, when I know and you know, it's not official.
Yes.
The government can come and debunk it.
Yes.
And say, no, you are not getting it. We want to hear the government telling us this exact price. And then I will now come and say, no, it's more than this. They will not sit down. That's how governance is done, because governance is for the people. We'll not sit down together and we know why is it. Then we can now get at. But you know that secrecy is the same thing that will make everybody fight that NNPC must remain NNPC, must not be unboggled, must not be made a private entity. That is why every president will meet the Minister of Petroleum. Up to date, we don't have a Minister of Petroleum for the past 4 years. The president.
Well, apart from the president.
The president is the Minister of Petroleum.
Yeah. Kachiku is just Minister of State.
State for Petroleum. And you see, like he said, they said hardship has come to Nigeria. And I give this scenario. Before hardship came, that we say we're in the boom era where our GDP growth was 6, 7, the numbers of cars in Nigeria was less. So when we went into recession, suddenly the numbers of cars went up, and then fuel consumption went up. And yet, the ordinary man in the street is saying, look, they say Nigerians are suffering. And so I asked, when this government came to power, when the previous government came to power, they increased the fuel price. The same slogan they always use. We will put up palliative measures.
Yes. In fact, when you that place you got to, let me bring it back to Mr. Babatunde here. When government, part of government's response is that have no fear, Nigerians. There are no plans to remove fuel subsidy, because among other things, conditions for it do not exist yet, and these conditions for it. These palliatives, the way government phrases it is alternative cushion measures that they don't exist yet. And from what Mr. Mohammed has been saying to also what you were saying, it's probably going to also dovetail into the further clarification that IMF needed to make after the people who are managing our own sovereign wealth fund had complained that they didn't know what IMF was talking about. It wasn't being fair. Then there was a further clarification, that, look. So what do you think about this whole matter of palliatives? Because everybody's been looking for palliatives. Yeah. Jonathan regime looked for palliatives. Yeah. They did something. Government is saying here that we've not seen any palliatives. Not that is their word. And so we're not going to do it.
So this is the background. Sovereign wealth fund doesn't just start. It's a stabilization mechanism for saving oil gains. And it starts...
Sorry, and as you well know, the sovereign wealth fund, our sovereign wealth fund, according to the managers, was 1 billion, I think. $1 billion that they inherited from the other one, from the past regime. $500 million since this administration has come in. They themselves have now taken this 1.5 billion and have worked it up to something like 2-point-something billion. I don't know why Mr. Mohammed is laughing. He'll tell me about it, but you read it. You read all this stuff. So we've been working assiduously. Now people come and IMF will come and tell us that we don't know what we're doing.
You know, I think IMF should be more clearer. But I think I want to agree with some points they made. And I'm looking at it from that sovereign wealth fund, you know, from that angle. I want to go back to SS crude account. Okay. Because it's a gradual process. It's when an SS crude account was seen to, you know, when there are controversies about the legality, that was when the government then said, well, in 2011, that let's create another, you know, stabilization mechanism that's called sovereign wealth fund. But let's look at that SS crude account. In the last 15 years, it was created in 2004. And then it was meant to save oil gains. So when government is projecting the budget, they are saying we are producing 2.3 million barrels per day at about $100 per barrel. That's, you know, that's such a, in the past it was like that. So when they say, so when the oil is selling for more, so they want to save whatever is, you know, whatever they gain to a special account called the SS crude account. And it is meant to, you know, cushion the effects when the oil price, you know, dwindles. But if you look at the way it has been, the inflow and outflow of that SS crude account in the last 15 years, we discovered that about 15 trillion naira has accrued to that account. But it has been depleted to less than $1 billion.
They said we're doing infrastructure
now,
locally.
So
they say, you see, because the IMF is complaining because we're not carrying this money and going and investing it abroad, and have alleged that those that were scored high by IMF were those economies that were carrying everything to the West and investing over
right
there.
Now,
we, being wise in Nigeria, have invested our own locally.
Also, that's satirical, I think. Because in Nigeria right now, there are no evidences of these spendings.
Okay.
Because when you what the ordinary man would, what an average Nigerian will understand is that where are the roads? You know, during when the $15 trillion naira that has been expended, you know, from the excess crude account, when we look at the nature of expenditure, that is when we can start to understand if IMF is true or right. What they've spent on majorly is the NIPP power project. Right now, where are the evidences that it is working? Then, just in December 2018, it was revealed that the $2.1 billion that's remaining in the SS crude account has been depleted to about $600 million. And you asked me, what did they use the money for? To pay states for a Paris Club refund. In 2018 or 2017 or thereabouts, the president withdrew about $400 million from the excess crude account to add, you know, anticipatory. So he spent it on ordering for Tucano aircraft. That was when there was an issue with the National Assembly saying, how could you withdraw such amount without the parliament appropriating for it? Because excess crude account was a special account, but it had no legal basis. So it's discretionary. The government just feel like we are getting a lot from this oil price. We are gaining a lot. Let's save it to SS crude account. But there is no special modality for expenditure. So it is not subjected to proper scrutiny. And you know, when a process that is opaque is prone to be corrupt.
Yeah.
And because we don't have an idea of what is that, so right now our SS crude has been depleted to about $700 million. The sovereign wealth fund, for instance, government just think when they are comfortable, they just think, let's just transfer. So there is no special, like there is no legal backing that gives the government say that compel them that you must withdraw from the source. And there is another plan ongoing on the SS crude account where the FARC allocation, they are saying now that whenever the monthly distributed, the income that they will distribute to states and local government, whenever it's not up to 280 billion naira monthly, they will have to go back to SS crude account and withdraw a special account that is meant to be saved for the rainy day. You know, the president recently also said that the Ajakuta bill, he said he won't sign it because the National Assembly were also projecting that there should be a special funding extracted from the SS crude account. So all this, and this is what, because when oil dries up, there should be an evidence that we once had oil. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth account, the sovereign wealth fund, is about $1 trillion. Angola there is $5 billion. But Nigeria, the island of Africa, we have less than we have $600 million in the SS crude account. So it's a big challenge, and I think these are areas we need to start looking at.
It is, but IMF helping us to count our money has observed or alleged that in 2018, Nigerians spent, what, 731 billion naira on fuel subsidy.
Alone.
Alone.
Alone. And again, this, if you look at it, this 70-something billion was not appropriated.
700 billion,
Was
not
not
70 something.
appropriated.
731 billion
Was not appropriated. That is the corruption that we're talking about. It never went through the National Assembly. We don't know who. Meanwhile, as it stands today, the only people that import petroleum products is NNPC. Because the major marketers are not importing. So, are we paying subsidy to NNPC? And NNPC have been, their books have been lost for the past 3 years.
So it comes back to this
So
transparency
now,
that we're
when I was
about.
talking about this, let's get this SS crude account thing straightened out.
Sure.
It started with former President Olusegun Obasanjo, with the then minister Ngozi Nkonjo-Iweala, came up with that SS crude account as a means of savings. That account was saved when the late President Yar'Adua came. Being a governor then that were fighting that was illegal, decided that, look, that money there is illegal. So he shared it within every government. Remember, after I think he shared it, then there was still some that went in. Then they said there was a power agreement to allow the then President Jonathan to continue or to drug the doctrine of necessity. The governors were very firm. They said, look, you must make sure that all the money from the SS crude account must go to the states, divide it equally. There's no legal. That's how we depleted the SS crude account. She came back again. Remember a statement she made. She said when she came back the second time, the political will was not there. So she now forced her way through the president, through the National Assembly, and create a sovereign wealth fund. Now, what it implied is that there's no country that runs a special account and a sovereign wealth account. You have all this sovereign wealth account is mostly run by oil-producing countries, OPEC nations. So the sovereign wealth account is what you, like our benchmark is $50, then the price goes to like $60. You save that $10. Like he said, for the rainy days. Now, what you do is that just saving the money alone is not enough. So you look for investment vehicles to multiply that money.
Which our own sovereign fund managers
they've done well.
If
you have given 1.5 billion, is it billion, and you have increased it to 2.something billion,
2.3 or so,
2.3 billion in the whole about
4 years.
4 years,
maybe.
Thereabout. Then you've done well. When you look at the economy, the stock market, they are not even giving that kind of return. Well done.
That's why they felt they didn't get a fair
but
shake
remember
from IMF.
What IMF is saying, like he said, it is not done the way sovereign wealth fund should be done. Like he said, it is done when it's convenient. IMF said there's no mechanism in how we invest. And the current minister of finance, came out and said, yes, we're having problem because the state always wants us to share everything. So as it stands now, it was only 500. So it's not that you have a system that says, look, the system is there because it has been appropriated into law, but the political will to follow it is not there.
Well, how about, could you quickly comment on, maybe we can also just take it after you, on the notion that Labour has that IMF is just looking to devalue our naira?
You see, I usually say something. If you know what you are doing, it's like in business. If you're into business, it's all about demand and supply. That's it. So if we have our act together, we are not importing 90% of what we need. IMF will have no reason to tell us that. What they are saying is, like IMF, remember IMF made two things again. It made another valid point. It said we should also we should allow the currency to have a free flow.
Okay, yes.
And what do we do with that? Every government have not changed in that regard. If you go there, you see CBN intervene in the market with $210 million in a week. And I asked myself the same thing we are talking about, the subsidy. Who are we subsidizing dollars for? Is it the ordinary man or the few elites that are going to travel? Then that again, secondly, remember in December, the central bank created a special vehicle for the exchange rate to be brought down so that they can have it, people should spend during Christmas. Now, what do we do with our reserve? Instead of using our reserve to develop key infrastructures that will in the long term benefit everybody.
Is that why you were laughing when I was talking
Yes.
about... Okay, so it means that you haven't seen much of that claimed
No,
development.
You see, when you see the reserve,
Infrastructural
when you see the
development.
reserve is being taken to defend the currency, and in essence, helping the rich to get richer by the day, then what do you say? How much does the Bureau de Change contribute to the GDP of this nation? That we have to create a special vehicle for them during the Christmas period.
As you know, most Nigerians see it, the very ordinary Nigerians that you are championing, that look, guys with their own private jets hardly need any subsidy from anybody. I understand what you're saying. I mean, let it be said, I think there are Nigerian streets, not too many of them, but there are Nigerian streets you will actually see a Ferrari, you will see a Lamborghini. That is a fact.
Yes.
It happened there. Let me not mention states.
Yeah.
There are streets like that. So the main complaint, to take that extreme example, is that you're subsidizing these guys too, along with the Danfo driver that most of us need. So we know from previous experience that you go through this caper, whoever is paying 100 naira now for a stop-to-stop drop, it's going to be more. If not 200, it'll be 150. And that is what scares the public. You gentlemen started out by saying that, look, we are researchers here. We are professionals, and let's take emotions out of this whole matter. If you ask me, we don't have any business with subsidy. I can imagine most ordinary Nigerians saying, these people they went and brought, are they part of the IMF people? So you get, I was just making a joke of that.
Sure.
They can't understand, most of us can't understand how you can remove subsidy and we will not suffer, we the people that need it. And that's why government is saying that we know this. There are no alternative, cushioning measures. What would you say to such Nigerians, for example?
So one is that there is a wide value gap and a wide information gap between the government, what the government says, the actual issue, and the realities of the common man.
Okay, the realities of the common man is that fuel is 145
So
now
that's
per
the-
liter.
that's the
That one,
reality.
he has locked down
That's
that
the
reality. I've locked down that
Of
one.
course. And if you look at,
Let's come back and continue this conversation. Producers say we should go on a quick break. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back, and we'll include your calls as well. Welcome back, and Messrs. Babatunde and Mohammed, researcher and financial analyst in the studio, respectively. And we're looking at the IMF position that Nigeria should seriously consider removing subsidy. This is a thing that we've been going through with various administrations, and the gentlemen have sort of given a position. Now, they started out, just in case you weren't here at the beginning, by saying that, technically speaking, we don't have any business with fuel subsidy, principally because the target, well, whatever the target was, it's indefensible who is benefiting more from fuel subsidy. But government doesn't see it like that, because government has said that, have no fear, Nigerians, where there are no plans to remove subsidy. You've heard the news, no doubt, but there are no plans because there is no alternative measure. So I was asking you, how do you now explain your reasoned and technical positions, if indeed people agree that that is what it is, to the ordinary Nigerian who has locked down 145 naira per liter? You come and do something now, you come and tell us it is now 210 naira, for example. I just pulled that out of my hat. How do you explain that and come and tell the ordinary Nigerian that this is better for us in the long run? I think that's what the government is scared of.
See, there is inefficiency
Okay.
in the operation of the oil and gas sector. Lack of transparency, lack of accountability. NNPC is telling us that they are not accountable to Nigerians. And it is obvious when you send FOI to NNPC, asking them for how much exactly are you spending on free subsidy.
This is an official secret.
Official secret. So if the government is claiming that subsidy is for the common man, are they doing it for the ordinary Nigerian? So why is it so difficult for you to become clear? We are consuming these liters of oil per day. This is how much we are subsidizing. If Nigerians are seeing it, and Nigerians, we're getting tired of earning billions. When Nigerians read news and they get to say 5 billion naira has been embezzled or misappropriated, Nigerians will tell you, so what next? Because they are now used to it. Until Nigerians start seeing this thing in real terms, when Nigerians know that the cost of subsidizing fuel is enough to construct, primary healthcare center in each of the local governments we have in Nigeria. So if Nigerians are seeing it that way, that see, we are removing subsidy, but you don't bother about transporting you going extra mile to hospital.
All the things you need money for.
Yes.
Most of those things have been sorted.
According
education sorted.
Health sorted. You have good water.
Accommodation sorted.
So then
roads sorted.
Of course.
Maybe not 100%,
but to some extent.
Everybody can see that this thing is being sorted. But well.
So if the Nigerians see that reality, so for instance,
I think the reality that government is aware of is that the other people that you say are unfairly benefiting from this subsidy as we have are not going to protest anything. They're not going to take to the streets.
They can afford it.
But it's the you and the I that will shout, and we are more than those people. And so government probably said, wait, we don't want these people's trouble. We don't, these other ones.
When you like you say, when you talk about fuel, the only palliative measure that have been done on fuel subsidy that we could look back to and said, well, we saw what this subsidy money was doing at that time. Unfortunately, it was during the military regime. And same, unfortunately, it was during late General Sani Abacha regime. The Petroleum Trust, the Petroleum Trust Fund, headed by this same current president. That you saw hospitals, some of those vehicles, you still see them in higher institutions. PTF sponsors. So Nigerians are not too difficult people. They just want governance to tell them how transparent they are going to be in an issue. You see, when it comes to the petroleum...
But government has already said that there are no plans. And when you... the words that government chose, there are no plans.
Well, let me ask you a question.
To remove fuel subsidy.
Why is it subsidy is still shared in secrecy? We don't know how much. We don't know how we pay. We don't know who is paid, who is collecting subsidy at the moment. But the one that they say they will go and distribute to the ordinary man in the market, they call it trader money. We know how much is being spent. Have we asked ourselves that question? So why is the one that will touch the ordinary man, we know how much? And the one that will not touch the ordinary man, we don't know how much. Because how many of the ordinary man or the average man or the middle class citizen in Nigeria is involved in the subsidy scheme? How many of them? Can they list off the company? Can they tell us how much they paid each company? Can they tell us how many of this crude oil these companies bring into this country? Can we verify? We have verified bodies. Remember, Labour sometimes says they are not against subsidy, but they are just saying that at the time the price of this crude comes into Nigeria, it goes up by more than 50%. Labour say it goes more than 50% when it entered Nigerian water. So Labour was telling government, can you begin to reduce some of those charges? And government said, if we reduce those charges, we will not have revenue.
Okay. Liberty, good morning and thank you for holding on.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning to everybody in the studio.
Good morning, sir.
government saying they will not cannot remove subsidy now, they are on the right path. Subsidy can never be removed now. That would be totally unfair on we Nigerians. The major problem this country has is that...
But Liberty, you've heard the arguments from a technical research point of view.
Technical or no technical, the basis of what Nigeria should know is that until we begin to produce refined fuel in Nigeria here, we are going to continue with this problem.
Okay.
If we don't refine fuel here, because continue to import, the problem will continue. So now, since this is the situation we meet ourselves, we are hoping that Dangote refinery is coming up very soon. If what they told us, that Dangote refinery is coming up and can supply whole Nigeria, even Africa, government has to continue to subsidize at that time when Dangote refinery will be on. So let me, as a Nigerian, know now that if I'm buying 5 liters of fuel in filling station, Nigeria is paying 500 naira for me. Why I'm paying 145? Because they said the land cost about 205 or so now. So look at it from that direction. So that one will benefit many of, after all, they are collecting fast salary in Abuja. Everybody's collecting their own share. Let that be my own share too, or my own national cake. If I'm paying, if I'm buying 10 liters fuel, if government is paying 1,000 naira for me, I'm paying 145 for myself. It's okay. Let it be, because the effect, my other brother there was saying that health center, the build, all those ones. It is true. If they remove subsidies, you build health center, but for how long would that one be? When they remove subsidies now, the suffering will be more than health center, road, all those things. And we sure they will even go and consult the health center at the end of the day. This is what we can see now. It's a temporary measure. Let's enjoy it. Let's continue to subsidize, believing that by grace of God, Dangote refinery will be done. They will continue to refine fuel here. Then they will stop importation. Then everyone will go back to normal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for calling in as well. And you see,
the challenge is we look at the short-term solution to a long-term problem.
And also, sorry to interrupt you, and also he was pointing out who needs subsidy has come up again. Well, I need subsidy because he didn't say so, but this is a wicked circumstance where I'm not getting anything. Even nothing. This society does nothing for me. That is, And now, this little subsidy they are contributing, you now start talking grammar, right? You people are talking grammar. Nobody should touch that subsidy.
The fact of the matter is that he doesn't know they give you subsidy this way and they collect it the other way. Because you don't have good hospitals to go to. So how much do you spend?
Yes. Yes.
How much do you spend?
I hear you. But there's an emotional content as well that governance and researchers have to also factor in.
You see, the challenge with governance, like he have said, is lack of information to the ordinary Nigerian. Information gap.
It's really wide.
You are not, and like I said, this government came with a lot of goodwill. If this is the only government that I thought was, even when Mr. President was telling us before he came in, he said he doesn't even believe there's anything like subsidies. That it's a scheme. It's a scam.
Okay, one moment, please. I've got an alliterative one. KG in Kanji, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Yes, Uncle Yori, with due respect to your analysis there, I think we need to understand the facts of Nigeria.
Okay.
IMF does not have interest in Nigeria at heart. That's number one. And we should establish that fact. Now, until removing subsidy now, regardless of whatever research it is, it's going to bring a whole lot of problems. And let me correct your analysis there. It's saying the people that are driving cars. Until I want to take a statistics in Lagos. Calculate the number of big cars that is above ₦1 million in Lagos, and calculate the number of cars that is lower than ₦1 million in Lagos. Which one is more? Now, which one queues at the station to buy for? Do you see the elite queuing at the station to buy for? No. So whatever that happens affects the ordinary man directly. Okay, if fuel subsidy is being removed today, that means the price of beans will go up. For example, one of the reasons why we think people that are doing this analysis should ask the direct questions to Mr. President. And what are the questions? Demand that we should know the number of crude oil that we produce per day. Demand that we should know the number of liters that they are bringing in per day. For example, Mokwa to Ilorin, in those days, before this regime, we spent 5 hours, at times a day, to get to Ilorin. a journey of 2 hours. But by the time they've done the road now, I can boldly tell someone in Kanji that, oh, I want to get to Ilorin, I'm coming back. Within 2-3 hours, I'm in Ilorin, and I'm back to Kanji. Before 2016, it wasn't like that. Now, the people are saying that the government is doing something, and you are saying they should remove subsidy when the people needed it more. We all know that the issue surrounding subsidy is much, we know. NFPC has the issue, we know. There is no light in Nigeria, we know. There are no hospitals in Nigeria, we know. Another Nigeria knows all that. But don't compound the problem. Please, help us and tell these people that are doing research. They should ask direct questions and let people know the reality. We want to know how much are we making on crude per day.
Okay.
What are we producing on crude per day? Not removing subsidy. Subsidy will not help us. It will create more problems. Rent in Lagos will jump to is elite renting a house in Lagos. Let's be realistic with ourselves. Are the elite renting houses? No, they are buying houses in abroad. The moment they remove the subsidy now, we that you are paying 500,000 naira a year, it will go to 1 billion naira. Who is affecting who? So what are we saying? They should write the ask question and let people know the right thing.
Okay.
They should stop saying all this big grammar. Our problem started right from the day we adopt English as our language.
Okay.
Let's speak the language that we understand, that we're able to communicate with ourselves.
Okay, KG. But you say if you try, KG, but you say have tried. There are some very decent grammar that you say have spoken. It's not just our researchers that are speaking big grammar. But thank you very much for calling in. I'm hearing what he is saying, but first of all, he's not the only part that he hasn't picked up from what you guys have said, especially what Mr. Mohammed said, that look, this whole subsidy business, there's a sense in which you can look at it from it's taking it with one hand. I mean, giving it with one hand, and then, as it were, taking it out by other means.
Multiple fold.
And you don't know, and you're just chilling.
Just like what the government said. Today, Nigerians are paying more. We talk about you withdraw money, you pay stamp duty charge from the banks, and this money is supposed to go to the government. Are we not paying it? The same government, even up to recent, they want to increase salary, and they are looking for how to generate funds, and they say they will increase that. Until people started shouting. It's only in Nigeria the government seems to take so much from the people and give them very little. Now, that's what we're saying. You are looking at all this avenue, but you're not looking at other avenue that government is using to even make the average, the ordinary Nigeria more getting poor and poor by the day. He's talking about numbers of cars that are above 1 million in Lagos and compare. And Uncle Yore, you know it. That if you go out, the numbers of cars that are less than 1 million in Lagos is not as much as the number of cars that are above 1 million in Lagos. And like people always say, the subsidy has only been enjoyed in cities like Lagos, like Abuja, like Port Harcourt sometime, that the far north, Sokoto, Maiduguri, they still buy fuel at 160, 170.
So, yes.
So I think there is a big challenge. That's from what the last speaker said.
KG,
what he said. According to the NBS, the total number of vehicles we have in Nigeria.
Nigerian Bureau of Statistics.
Yes. The total number of vehicles we have in Nigeria is less than 12 million. And I'm still coming back to the people living with extreme poverty. 97 million Nigerians are living in extreme poverty. So if you want, and we have about 200 million Nigerians, that means about 99 million Nigerians don't have a car. So let's not agree that 11 million Nigerians plus the 1%, the government and the guys, let's say they are about 100,000. Let's say people that are enjoying subsidy, people that have cars, let's even agree they are 50 million. We still have about 250 million Nigerians that can't afford a car. That means they have to go through BRT. They have to get public transport. And the cost of subsidizing for, if a car, we go up, 5 liters. The government is subsidizing that 5 liters. The same cab that I will have to pay 50 naira, 100 naira to transport me to work, we take about 15 people, about 60 people. So that means the same number of what government is spending on 60 people on a particular vehicle is what he's spending. And the government official, look at the president, he goes a convoy, subsidizing the convoy.
That was the point I was going to make earlier, there is no belt tightening that is discernible.
No.
None. Not very much. Mr. Babatunde in Ilorin, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Please go ahead. Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you very much. Please, I want your guests in the studio to please help to respond to this. I have been to Britain. I've lived there. I've been to the U.S. In the U.S., there are lots of things that the government subsidizes for the people. Children are given, the parents are paid allowances. When the young ones who have no jobs, they are paid. In the UK, when children are born, the parents are paid allowances, no matter the number. Now, these are subsidies. Why did the IMF not tell the UK and the US to stop any form of subsidy? Why should it be that the only thing that our own people are doing for the poor in Nigeria, they are saying, no, they must remove? Imagine the consequences. If subsidy is removed now for the second term of Buhari, there will be chaos in the country. In fact, the Arab Spring will spring up in Nigeria. Mr. Okoyori, I don't think the IMF should tell us to remove subsidy, not at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling in, sir. And it was KG who said earlier that, make no mistake, IMF does not have Nigeria's interest at heart. So there's a...
You see, the challenge you have is that we keep on saying IMF does not have our interest in heart, but our governments keep going to IMF. Our government keep going to IMF. The world has become a global village. When he's talking about staying in the Britain, staying in the UK,
and the subsidies that go on there.
You know, the subsidy that goes on there has to do with education, has to do with well-being, that is, feeding. And then, in some states, in America, housing. They subsidize that for the ordinary people. Mm-hmm. They give them some incentive. And remember, some of these incentives are not even incentives that are being given by government. They are being run sometimes by NGOs. In America, that he's saying about, the cost of fuel in southern part of America is different from the cost of fuel in the other side of America. And then the type of subsidy you enjoy in one part of America is not the same subsidy you enjoy in another part. Let me give a big city like New York, you don't enjoy subsidy on housing. But in a small city like South Carolina, you enjoy subsidy in housing. What are they trying to do? They are trying to disconnect New York so that people can move to the south of the Carolina. So, but here in Nigeria, what we see is one scheme called subsidy that is not affecting everybody. But when you see those things being subsidized in America or in the UK, realize it's not only affecting the average UK citizen or the American citizen, it's affecting other people. And sometimes the average Americans even benefit better than the elite. Okay.
I want to thank you for holding on. That's Bolaji in Ijebu-Ode. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in, sir. First of all, should they remove subsidy as IMF is advising or not?
The question remains that the issue of subsidies is an important one to Nigerians. And the fact remains that, as your analysts have said, Mr. Mohammed is very, very correct. But this is where my problem lies. Why can't our government give us refinery and we produce our own petrol or PMS, whatever that we consume in Nigeria first, and remove the subsidy? We know subsidy is not good for our economy, and that is the fact. But my own point of view is that you remove subsidy, the money goes into government. People doesn't trust our government. They will still hold the money. They will still keep the money. Mr. Mohammed is saying they are going to build more hospitals, they are going to build more roads, they are going to do this, they are going to do that. How many have they done in the past when they have the money?
No, I don't think he said. I think he was saying that the money that is being used to subsidize, that it's more than enough to do all of those things, all over, up and down the land.
And but the question, we don't trust the government. They should give us refineries first.
Okay. Okay.
That is what I want to say, Mr. Yori. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for calling in.
You know, when he mentioned the refinery, I'm forced to go back to that issue. Refinery is doing the current one we have, the 4 refineries, they are moribund. And the challenge still comes back to we don't know how much NNPC is spending, on this refinery.
Turnaround maintenance.
For turnaround maintenance. And there was a report that NNPC has been running at a loss in the last 15 years. So NNPC is doing no good, for Nigerians. So when you're subsidizing fuel, you'll still, because when money comes to government, the budget, NNPC would decide how much they want to remit to the Federation account.
But the managers of our sovereign fund, I forget the name of the Oji. Uche Oji is not happy at all with IMF.
Uche Oji is not happy at all with IMF, but Uche Oji should get that. That's why IMF clarified the issue. Like I said, there is no system in our saving culture. That's what IMF is saying. It's saying when your price of crude was $100 per barrel, when your price of crude was $120 per barrel, how much were you able to save? Okay. That's what IMF is saying. Even now, your crude price is $71. How much are you saving?
So when it talks about mismanagement, in quotes,
mismanagement is when you want me. So sometimes we just try to be emotional. When I say mismanagement, remember mismanagement is not as the same thing as being corrupt.
Of course, it's
mismanagement is you are not managing what is coming to your hand as you should manage it. That's what IMF is telling us. In simple terms, you are not managing your excess crude account like he said. Saudi Arabia have excess crude account.
Can you imagine $1 trillion?
Yes, $1 trillion.
Dubai, United Arab Emirates, today is the hub.
Of course.
They was developed through their sovereign wealth account. Norway.
Norway.
Use their sovereign wealth account to develop their place to become a shipping hub. What are we using? Look, we are talking about the sovereign wealth. Let me tell you what they have already done. The only place the Nigerian sovereign wealth account is saying they have invested in this country is the second Niger bridge. That's where they have put all that money. And if you go to the east and tell somebody that this is the type of money that have been put into the sovereign wealth, you say, I've not seen anything yet.
There's a caller in Abuja. Ehi, I didn't get that. Ehi, good morning, Ehi.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
I'm just following with what is happening.
Ehi.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Yes, quickly, please. We have about 30 seconds left.
Okay. I just want to ask ourselves this question. Do we have refinery?
Okay. All right.
If we have refinery in the past and in the present, and Nigeria we used to refine oil. So now the question is, what is happening now that Nigeria cannot refine oil? And
okay, thank you very much for calling in. As I said, in fact, we don't even have time to respond to that, but we did register that you were listening, you wanted to come into it, and we appreciate you. But interesting, gentlemen, we've completely run out of time. Mr. Mukta Mohammed, Mr. Akitude Babatunde, you guys are saying, you know what, we should remove subsidy. Yeah. But you also accept that it's a very highly emotive issue.
Yes.
But you've tried to sort of bring those issues to bear. Can we look at these with a bit of dispassion? Yeah. I want to thank you very much, gentlemen, Mr. Akitude Babatunde and Mr. Mukta Mohammed. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here, Uncle Yori.
Indeed. Thank you very much. So that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.